So I finally got a chance to go see The Mummy, mainly because when it first came out, I think it came out the same weekend as Wonder Woman or something. Anyway, but it also, when it came out, I was still pretty fresh recovering from surgery. But then after, I kept hearing pretty negative reviews about the movie. So now it's pretty much, like, at the at the ass end of theaters, where you could go see it like for kind of like half price now since it's coming out of the theater. So pretty much I was curious, as to why it was so negative. Mind you, I saw the trailer and I kind of guessed, But actually watching it, it's just, it was pretty ridiculous, I love how, since Tom Cruise is in the movie, they had to have, like, several times where he's just running. And he runs so weird, because when you're running, you usually kind of lean forward, and he does that, like, straight up and down running, Like, his chest is, like, really straight, and he's running, and he's just, like, freaking out. I just find, God, who runs like that? Well, it seems like Tom Cruise does. So, yeah, so he's running, and then, of course, like, defenestration galore is happening behind him. Anyway, so, and I'm not even gonna be that person, but I'm just gonna at least mention that, obviously there's a lot of anachronisms, but please, these movies never are, like, 100% historically accurate. But, there's, like, parts where it's like, oh, yeah, the mummy bitches, tomb thingamajigger is guarded by a bunch of chains, and I'm like, but chains weren't really like those steel iron chains didn't happen till like several, centuries later. Okay, there was like a lot of things like that, but like the language on her face was just some bullshit. Anyway, so Tom Cruise and that guy from New Girl, Jake Johnson. I don't want to say Jack Johnson, I think that's a musician. Jake Johnson. They're just like some sort of military guys or whatever, but because they're also in the Middle East, they're like, hey, let's find antiquity. Let's be white people and steal. and steal antiquities. Like, and make money off of it. It's like, okay. Of course, they're like, we were, we told them that we're 100 miles that way. We can't be doing this. And of course, Tom Cruise is like, what? Were you chicken? Guy from New Girl? And he's like, no, I just don't want to die. And, like, I feel like they used, like, that guy, the Jake Johnson's character is kind of like a semi-throwaway character, because he's there in the beginning, he's kind of there in the middle, and then he's there at the end, kind of stuff. But I feel like, obviously, he's there for plot convenience, pretty much. Like, whenever Tom Cruise needs help, he's there. Other than that, he's not there. He's just freaking out with the lady archaeologist, who is like, what do you call it, backstabber, whatever shit. I feel like none of this, what I'm saying, is making any damn sense, but that's kind of how the movie is. So, you see in the trailer where the plane goes down, so before that, Jake Johnson's character, like, he gets bitten by some, underground, super ancient spider kind of thing. And Tom Cruise was even like, they're not even poisonous, so you don't know why you guys freak out. I'm like, I don't know, it was a shit ton of spiders. Shut the fuck up, Mr. Tom Cruise. He probably asked them to crash a plane, so he said he did his own stunts. That kind of shit. Because, in Mission Impossible, when he literally, did hang out of a fucking plane. Like, okay, we get it. You do your own stunts, yada yada. But yeah, like, Jake Johnson gets bitten by this spider. He doesn't get turned into Spider-Man. He ends up getting, like, possessed, and then technically is dead. He's a zombie. He's got, like, that one, like, glossy eye, and he's just like, ugh. He just, like, goes and just freaking, like, stabs, like, what's his name? Courtney B. Vance, Like, he was in the movie for, like, a second. Yeah, he stabs Courtney B. Vance, and then, almost tries to stab, like, the lady, But then Tom Cruise comes in and, like, shoots him. I like how he doesn't just shoot him, but he, like, holds the gun like this, and he's like, ah! You know, I'm not deaf. It's not making me deaf. That's a loud gunshot. In a pressurized, you know, aircraft. Nope, totally fine. You know? But then, you know, there's the shit ton of birds that fly through the windshield, which, again, it's like, those kind of planes, it wouldn't, I'm not even gonna go into that. Anyway, so the plane goes down, everyone's dead but the woman, because, again, you see in the trailer, Tom Cruise pulls her chute, she's fine. Of course, you find Tom Cruise, he, you know, wakes up in the morgue kind of shit. Jake Johnson, he's dead. Like, he is dead. He is a spirit. And he's, like, talking to Tom Cruise. He's just like, whoa. Like, you know, Tom Cruise is like, well, how am I alive? Like, or why am I here? And Jake Johnson's like, bitch, you know why. And you're like, okay. And it's just like, and it's so weird because when they went into, like, the mummy's tomb dealy-majigger, like, already she's, like, calling out to him, because, like, he's like, oh, we should take some stuff. They're like, oh, we gotta leave, and then, like, he just gets flashes of her, you know, like, calling for him, and it's like, of all people, you know, like, they didn't call for frickin' the lady, they didn't call for Jake Johnson, they got called for Tom Cruise, and because of, yeah, so, you know, Jake Johnson's like, oh yeah, you know why, like, you hear her too, kind of shit, and it's like, what? So there, like, Tom Cruise is getting, you know, telepathic communication from the mummy woman. Okay, fine. I also don't understand the obsession with Mercury in this fucking movie, because it's like, in her tomb there's Mercury, and then in the end, spoiler, you know, when they re-entombed her in some Mercury, and I'm just like, why Mercury, of all things? But anyway, it's like, oh yeah, a very poisonous substance. Let's all just dip our hands in it, you know? Like, no one wears gloves handling Mercury. They're just like, alright. But anyway, so, you know, once the woman finds out, obviously, that Tom Cruise is alive, thus begin, like, the weird shit happening where the woman doesn't believe Tom Cruise, but she sticks with him anyway. Tom Cruise is like, we gotta go back, I gotta go, like, something's, like, I feel like I need to go and find her tomb dealy, like, he took the sarcophagus, not the tomb, but the sarcophagus out. I need to go find it. He gets there. Oh my god, weird stuff's happening. And then the woman's like, she's the one who's been calling you to her thingamajigger. You know, and he's like, oh my god. And it's like, really, bro? You're getting, like, images in your head. And he's like, oh, I thought it was just... You're like, what? You know, like, you know. And there's so many times in the movie that there was all these, like, close calls. Like, we almost died. So, of course, there's, like, the plane crash. Well, technically he's dead, but, like, technically he's dead, but he's alive because the woman, like, brought him back to life. It's so dumb. But I think you see in the trailer where it's, like, that fucking dust storm, and Tom Cruise, like, pushes the woman out of the way, and he, like, hops into, like, the double-decker bus, you know, that kind of stuff. That happens. There's a part where there are, like, underground where, like, the subway tracks are, and then out of nowhere, of course, we're walking, you don't see a light in the back, but suddenly there's lights, and then of course him and the woman pull each other off to the side, and they, like, make it out in time before something hits them. And there's so many times in these close calls, part of me were just like, okay, you kind of know that Tom Cruise wasn't gonna die because he's technically Tom Cruise and he's the lead. You're just like, alright, that woman's gonna die. He's gonna try to save her, but instead, you know, she dies. But no, okay, they're fine. But yeah, so pretty much the mummy lady, obviously, you know, she starts sucking face with all these guys that are, like, guarding her sarcophagus or examining it or whatever the fuck they were doing. I don't know, that scene was really dark. I had no idea what the fuck was happening. But anyway, she was like sucking these guys' faces to you know, not be all gross and mummy and into a nice lady. What was I saying? So, God, I lost my goddamn train of thought. Wow, that just went away. Kind of like this movie, where it just kind of went somewhere and I was confused. Yeah, so yes, she sucks faces on it so she could be a person, and then she keeps telling Tom Cruise, like, oh yeah, that's where my brain was going to. So pretty much she wants to, you know, be all human form again, and then have Tom Cruise be like a living god, because in the beginning you see that, like, she was just like pissed off because she was gonna be the heir of whatever, and then because like her parents or whomever the fuck end up having a son, so she couldn't be reigning and all that stuff. You know, so she's upset, and she was gonna kill this dude and make him a living god. Like, it was just, the premise is just so dumb. And then, like, she was gonna do that to Tom Cruise because somehow Chosen One Tom Cruise, you know, it's like this dagger, and then the dagger, there's gonna be like this freaking big old ring pop jewel, but like the two things have separated, so you gotta find the pieces, kind of shit. So that, like, is a thing that's happening. Mind you, during this time, like Jake Johnson's nowhere to be seen, so he goes from, like, talking, you know, spirit, like, to Tom Cruise, and then stuff happens, you don't see him, Tom Cruise is like, I got it, so Jake Johnson's like, I'll hang back, because you don't see him for a while. Turns out Lady Archaeologist, is, I guess, lying to them. I don't know if it's really lying, because she just never told them about it, and she never, nothing was ever perceived that she was a better person, but she works for Russell Crowe, who is fucking Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because let's shoehorn that in there, sure, and that happens, and so you get to his hideout, his big old home thingy, you know, and it's like oh yeah, because that's when, the mummy lady was, like, freaking out and trying to kill them, because, like, she does, and then they were able to, like, tase her down, and then they, like, weighed her down with chains, and were, like, trying to freeze her. Like, I don't get it. They were like, oh, let's, like, okay, you tased her, then again with the mercury, and then you're gonna freeze her in mercury, and I don't understand what the point it has to be with mercury. Like, why that, of all things? Anyway, so they're in, you know, Russell Crowe's lair, and, like, it's pretty much, I don't know, it's like, the fact that they shoehorned in Dr. Jekyll, you know, because, you know, Universal wants to do their Dark Universe thing, which they proudly announced at the beginning when the movie studio thing, so you see, like, Universal, and then it turns around and it's like, Dark Universe, and it's like, alright, you know, it's kind of like, because this is, like, the first thing, so it's kind of like if Marvel, like, within Iron Man, not like later on now when you see, like, it goes like, and you see the actors who play, you know, the characters, but it's like if Iron Man, the very first movie, like, it just says, like, Marvel, and then it turns around and goes, Marvel Cinematic Universe, you know, like, it was just kind of like, whoa, okay, we were just thinking, like, it's one movie, and then you guys got a little overexcited, you know, and it's just like, I feel like Universal's doing this thing where, like, well, if Marvel can do it, and DC's trying, we can do it, and it's like, you know, I think it's like, it's funny, because they're kind of following in the footsteps of DC more than Marvel, because they're just trying to be like, well, you gotta play catch-up, and it's like, stop, especially you, like, DC, you're still in, like, the comic universe, but, like, Universal, it's like, guys, like, take your time, you've literally been around longer than these two comic companies, so just take your time with it, you know? Fuck. Anyway, so there's a part where Dr. Jekyll's starting to turn into Mr. Hyde. He's got, like, this big-ass, like, injections. He's got 4 needle thingies to inject in, and he's pretty much telling them to leave. The black guy security dude, like, pulls the lady out, and Tom Cruise is like, no, I still want to talk, while Russell Crowe was, like, spazzing and, like, fuck, like, freaking out like that, and Tom Cruise is like, no, I still want to have a conversation with you while you're freaking the fuck out, you know, and of course, like, he hits the button, so, like, because they know, like, he'll turn into that thing. So, like, all the, like, gates and stuff start closing. And, of course, like, Tom Cruise then, once the button is hit, he's like, oh, no! And then he, like, turns around and, like, hops over, you know, like, a chair, because, you know, he's Tom Cruise. He's got to show that he can do that. And then once he gets to the door, of course, the door closed, and he's stuck in there with fucking, you know, Mr. Hyde, and he's like, ah, and it's just... And then the woman is trying to get away from the black guy guard because she wants to, like, help out Tom Cruise. But it's like, bitch, if you work with Dr. Jekyll, you know what happened. Sorry. And then she, like, knocks out the dude with the book from the Brendan Fraser mummy. You know? And then she tries to, like, break the glass of, like, the library, because it's, like, the library's all, like, glass or whatever, and you can see into his office, but obviously everything is just, like, shut down, and she's just she's like, boink, boink, and, like, nothing's breaking it, because they probably thought it out, and again, ma'am, you fucking work for him. I think this was part of the thing that you signed. He's like, once in a while, I'll freak out and become a different person, and it'll be horrible, and it's okay because I'll be indoors in my lair and I'll be fully protected. And she's like, okay, so I want to save Tom Cruise. And the black dude's like knocked out. And of course later he gets up and he's like, alright, we gotta find him. Somehow they get out and stuff and whatever. Like I said, like we get it. You're trying to start yours, like cinematic, like your, I guess, pretty much a redo, not redo, but like, what the fuck is a remake, I guess, reimagining of the Universal horror characters, and I get it, and that makes sense, but just to kind of, like I said, to shoehorn Dr. Jekyll in there, you know, and then just, so like, the third act is that part where, like, you see in the trailer where she's walking, and it's like that sandstorm, and it's kind of sandstorm, more of glass shard storm, and I love how no one is getting cut up by any of that. They're just like, oh my god, I'm running, or Tom Cruise, I'm running, you know, like, I'm running, and they're not like, ah, you know, they're just like, oh, it's dusty, it's really dusty, and no one's like, oh my god, you know, because it's like fucking glass and shit. No, it's fine, it's totally fine, but it's like, but yeah, I think that's when they get down to the subway, and that's when Jake Johnson shows up out of nowhere, because Tom Cruise and the lady are having this argument, and they're like, what do we do? I don't know, where you go now? And Jake Johnson's like, we gotta go this way. Like, whenever Tom Cruise is stuck in a spot, Jake Johnson shows up, he's like, over here, and he's like, huh, what? Oh no, that's the close call with the train, kind of shit, you know? But anyway, so then, pretty much, like, shit happens, you know, Tom Cruise ends up stabbing himself with that dagger. He tries breaking the jewel at first, but the girl was like, wait, no, stop! And he does. You know, instead of just being like, fuck it, smash it. And while it's still intact, he, like, kills himself. And he's like, because he's already, like, pretty fucking bruised up because he was, like, fighting the woman. Then he's like, and he gets fine, and he kind of, I feel like they kind of did some CGI and made him look like younger Tom Cruise for a second there. But anyway, so he heals up, he's a god, his eyes do that thing. The archaeology chick, she's dead because she, like, drowned or some, she drowned, because I remember they were underwater at one point. The underwater part just reminded me of, like, parts in, like, Tomb Raider or God of War, where you have to be, like, swimming really fast against things or whatever not. But yeah, so while he's, like, with the girl and he's got that, you know, multiple eye thingy happening, and she's like, come to me, and he's like, I'm Tom Cruise, but then, like, he would look over and see the dead girl, and he'd just be like, wait, no, wait, suddenly Keanu Reeves, but he'd be like, no, and then she's like, no, look at me, and he's like, okay, yeah, oh, wait, no, dead girl, oh, no, it was like this kind of back and forth for a bit of time, but anyway, yeah, so he ends up saying, fuck it, to the girl, to the mummy girl, and then goes to, like, save the frickin' dead girl, pretty much, because she drowned. Like, I forgot what he did, but he was just pretty much just like, no, don't die, and all of a sudden she's like, oh, I coughed up the water, I'm fine, you just had to, like, pat me on the back, I'm good, I'm alive. And then she's like, huh, what, I'm alive? Because I was most likely dead for a good 10 fucking minutes. You know, because when he's swimming, he finds her, she's floating in the water for some time, then he brings her above water, and, you know, some dialogue happens for some time, so it's about 10 minutes of death, no brain damage at all, she's fine, she's just like, whoo, got choked up on some water there, woo, you know, but, yeah, so, pretty much like, so the movie ends with, like I said, Dr. Jekyll's people, like, re-entombing her, like, she's all shriveled by now because of stuff, re-entombing her into some fucking, mercury, as I kept saying it, and then, I think the woman's fine, and then Tom Cruise and Jake Johnson is totally alive. They're in the desert. I think they're on horses or camels or whatever fuck. And Jake Johnson's like, hey man, thanks for bringing me back to life. Like, we had to explain that. And I got Tom Cruise like had the thing over his face so you don't see, like, maybe he's still a little fucked up looking, you know? So he does that and he's like, oh, what are we gonna do? And because they're still like in the desert, Tom Cruise is like, what else are we gonna do? Steal antiquities. And it's like right off into the sunset kind of shit. And it's like, there you go, your first movie in your new Dark Universe, you know? And then, like, I checked IMDb, and they're already, like, going with, there's gonna be a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde movie, because, you know, he was in there, so they're leading it to a solo movie. They're gonna do, I think Javier Bardem, I think, has been cast to play Frankenstein's monster, so obviously they're gonna do that. You know, they're gonna, like, pretty much all, like, those well-known known movies are pretty much, like, set to be made already, which is fine, it's understandable. Like I said, you know, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there was a time where, you know, it was like, yeah, we're set to do this, and even Ant-Man, and I remember at the time, I was like, oh my god, that's so long, that's so far away, and then all of a sudden, like, well, we went to go see Ant-Man. Like, it was just like, wow. But anyway, yeah. So, I would say this movie's a rental if you're interested, but in all honesty, like, I would say skip it. And if you want to see a mummy movie, watch the Brendan Fraser one, or literally watch the old, you know, frickin', like, old Universal one, because this was just like, let's get stuff happening, you know? Like, they made it it was just too much, you know? It was just too fucking much. And I think, like, Universal was technically trying to start with Dracula Untold, but then that didn't do very well. No surprise. And then this didn't do very well, again, no surprise. But, anyway, so that was The Mummy 27... I'm, like, pointing this way. The Mummy 2017. Like I said, when it ever comes, like, when it comes on Netflix, you put it on while you're cleaning or something, because it's not something, like, I don't know, the movie was only like an hour and 50 minutes long or something, like, it wasn't that long, but I felt like it was just, I was bored, you know, like, I just felt like they move on with it. You know, at least with Alien Covenant, like, it was a longer movie, but at no point was I like, get on with it, you know? Anyway, Alien Covenant was better than this, not saying something. But anyway, The Mummy.